Hello, everyone out there in podcast listening land. Welcome to the HP Podcast, episode number 373. I'm Ben. I'm really dark, I just realized. Is that a little better?
You're good. Yeah.
Just a tad? All right. Episode number 373. Hello, welcome to the show. I'm Ben. With me today is just one of the handsome ones, Dave. Or David, if you prefer.
Davey.
Or Miss Jackson if you're nasty. What's up, dude?
Good. I just getting over the flu.
Oh yeah. That's right, you were sick.
Like mini 24-hour flus that came from daycare, obviously.
Right.
Just kind of got over it today. So yeah, I'm feeling better. It's crazy how the flu knocks you out and literally makes you feel like you're clinging to life and reminds you how you take for granted things like wanting to eat and, keeping your balance and stuff like that.
I thought you were going to say keeping your bowels intact, but,
That too. But so it was weird. Like, I think the worst part about my sickness this week was the headache.
Yeah.
And, I felt like I was hungover. Like a really bad hangover. And I don't know if you know this about me, Ben, but I like a couple beers.
I've heard that about you. Yeah.
And the one thing that I think is like making me want to drink less is just the hangovers. Like the older I've gotten, the hangovers have gotten so bad. And the problem is like I love like the high ABV West Coast IPAs, the dank stuff. And it's just like a headache in a can, but it's just my favorite. But like, I don't know what it is about like a persistent like sinus headache that just like debilitates me. And that's like this flu, it just like real bad nausea, but this headache that just would not go away. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Took some NyQuil last night and had the best sleep of my life and woke up feeling a little bit better. But yeah,
I
I'm
can't
good.
remember if I've ever taken NyQuil.
I only recently started taking it because my wife was like, this is the key when you have anything closely resembling a cold or flu. And, you know, when you're sick, you need to sleep. And
Yeah.
NyQuil really helps with that. And the couple times I've taken it, it's knocked me right out. So,
Wouldn't just a shot of liquor or a couple shots of liquor do the same thing?
no, that it
No.
doesn't really have that effect on me, but
Yeah.
NyQuil does. Maybe I should try them both together. Is that scissor or lean?
I think you're onto something.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it doesn't really have that effect on me either, but I know if you're already sick and tired, for a lot of people, a little bit of booze does have that effect. But I don't know that it's really recommended if you're sick that you also ingest alcohol. But it's just a suggestion. You can take it if you want to. Only a suggestion for Dave, not for the audience.
Yeah. So I have a question about lean.
I
Is
don't know.
you know your your claim about Baja Blast, how it has to come from Taco Bell?
Yeah,
Does lean have to be drinking out of a styrofoam white cup?
I
I think
think
that's
it can be
probably the rule.
plastic. I think it
Plastic.
can be plastic,
Okay.
but
Right.
it can't be a name brand like a Solo. It has to be
Right.
like a Walmart knockoff
Okay.
if it's plastic.
Okay. Good to know. Because I
Now,
always see
lean.
it in the styrofoam white cup, the tall ones, not the little ones, not the little water cooler ones, but tall boys, right?
Yeah, and like preferably with ice.
Is there ice in
uh,
there? I don't know.
I don't know, but okay. So lean, uh, scissorp, and purple drink are all the same thing,
Are
right?
they? I
I'm
didn't
pretty
know that.
sure.
I thought they were like different variations or slightly different recipes. But they're all like alcohol mixed with medicine.
I don't even know if that's true. I think they're like codeine and whatever drink you want. I didn't know that they had. I didn't know that they had alcohol in them.
Okay. That would make sense. So it's just
Does anyone in chat
medication.
know?
Somebody knows.
Somebody's got to know.
Yeah.
It's some combination of codeine and other stuff.
Okay. I thought it had alcohol in it, but
It
makes
may.
sense.
Does codeine have? I don't even know what codeine is.
I don't know.
I mean, I know what it is. I don't know what's in it. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it goes by all three of those names, and it depends on which rapper you listen to, which one you call it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe I'll try that next time I get sick.
I don't really think there's any harm in trying it.
How are you, Ben?
I could go for some codeine. I'm pretty stressed out. I've been working like a lot lately, and that's okay. But that doesn't leave a lot of time to play games. So I've been also playing games, which just means that I've been sleeping even less than I already do. So like working 12 or 14-hour days the last couple of days, and then also playing 2 or 3 hours of games means almost no sleep. Because I have always been somebody who like I'm not going to shirk responsibilities or family to play video games. I'll cut out sleep. So I'm already playing video games very late at night when I'm playing, and now I'm playing even later because like I can't stand the thought of not only did I not get to like really hang out with my family today, I also didn't get to play video games because I worked all day. So I just have to, and when they're asleep. So anyway, that's how I'm doing. Overall, pretty good, but like it's I'm not hating it. It's just a lot right now. So
Do you have a specific time of day that you normally play video games? Is it after the kids go to bed?
yeah. So usually, on a normal day, I'll work from like 8 or 9 in the morning until 6ish. Then I'll go eat dinner, hang out with the family for a little bit, and then I usually come back to my office and most of the time end up working for a couple more hours, and then play games like probably starting around 11 or midnight. Then Wednesdays we have this. in the evening, and then after that, I usually go back to work for a little bit and play some games after if I can. Wednesdays are like the days pretty much every week that I just don't really see my family unless I pop out and see them at lunch or something like that. And then Thursdays we have a thing, like a small group thing with some friends from church. And then there's always stuff occupying other nights. Saturday mornings I got to get up early to go to kids' soccer games. So the only time of my day that I can reliably assume I will have no other responsibilities happening is like midnight to 3 a.m. So that's when I play video games most of the time.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I've always needed less sleep. I think I'm going to need a little more as I'm getting older, as I think most people do. But I can't but I got to play something,
Right.
Yeah.
I had a period of time where the morning, this is a really unsustainable thing, but I would play games in the morning.
I remember when you were doing that.
Yeah, I would get up like at 6 a.m., make coffee, and my wife was still asleep. My daughter wasn't born yet.
Yeah.
And I just knock out an hour of video games. I beat the entirety of RE2 Remake in the morning, Demon Souls Remake in the morning, and a couple other things. But that was kind of cool because it was just like an hour I had.
Yeah.
Sun would come up, hot coffee.
Yeah.
Video games. It's nice.
I would rather stay up until the sun comes up than get up when the sun comes up. That's right. How I've always been. That's how both my parents are. I don't know what it is. Like people used to be like, oh, you'll get used to it, if you do it for long enough. I worked a job where I had to get up at like 6 a.m. for 4 or 5 years. I never got used to it. I never once got used to it. I think my body is just permanently broken. But you know what? When I go to California, I'm the first one up because that's how my body runs. That time zone is where my body should live. So
nice.
Yeah. This is the HP podcast. Again, episode number 373. It's crazy, Dave. We're getting old.
We are.
Not only are we getting old, the show's getting old. Wait. Hopefully the audience doesn't think the show's getting old, but we can't control that. You can hang out with us on Discord over at handsomephantom.com/Discord. You can also hang out with us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month to get ad-free early access to the audio version of the show at patreon.com/handsomephantom. The live version, the video version, right here. If you're watching it, you already know where to go. If you don't, check out the description.
The show could legally work in most third world countries.
It's a good point. Maybe we should put it to work.
Yeah.
I think one of these weeks I'm just gonna create AI versions of ourselves and type in all of the news that happened and just see what happens. See if it can come up with a show. It could work for itself, You think anybody would notice if we were just replaced with robots?
What do they call them? Holy crap! When the streamers are furries or what? VTubers, that's it. What if we just showed up as VTubers one day? I think our audience would like that. I know some of our audience members, and I think they'd be into that.
Yeah, that's a lot more effort than I'm willing to put into it, though.
Right.
I think being a VTuber is pretty hard. I think there's a lot of systems that happen.
It's not just like an overlay. It's just.
I mean, maybe some of them are. I don't think all of them are.
Huh. Interesting.
I hear stories about VTubers paying excessive amounts of money for their avatars or their models or whatever they're called.
I was aware of VTubers before, but when we were in Boston last year, you kind of pulled back the dark and shady curtains that is the world of VTubers to me, and it's never been the same. I thought people were just putting fun filters on, but then I realized what it was in most cases, and it's really changed the way I look at VTubers. Yeah,
I gotta say, I don't know. I mean, I guess nobody really knows what it is in most cases, but there have been lots of instances of the cameras going down, or there being a glitch in the matrix, and it's just some 55-year-old 500-pound dude acting like he's a fox.
Is Peanut technically a VTuber?
Yeah, there's actually a big joke around that.
Okay,
he won best VTuber. But he plays it up and he's like, I'm not a VTuber, I'm a PTuber. And then all of the all of the VTubers, not all of them, but many of the VTubers were really angry and vindictive about it because he doesn't identify as a VTuber.
Right.
And he just came out of nowhere. What did he, whatever. Apparently, his model is like all custom built and really, really complicated. And one of the best I've ever seen. Not that I've entertained a whole lot of VTubers, but yeah, it's a whole thing. Like, there's a history you could go into, Dave, if you wanted to know about is Peanut a VTuber.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a storied history. Let's talk about some video games, Dave. Brandon. Forgot about him. He's not here. He had to work. So he'll be back when he can. Sorry, I didn't mean it. Wasn't meant to be dismissive. I just forgot to mention it. This is directly from Xbox Newswire. Starting today, Game Pass Ultimate drops from $29.99. This was yesterday, by the way, to $22.99 a month. PC Game Pass will also drop from $16.49 to $13.99. Prices may vary by region. Beginning this year, future Call of Duty titles won't join Game Pass Ultimate or PC Game Pass at launch. New Call of Duty games will be added to Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass during the following holiday season, about a year later, while existing Call of Duty titles already in the library, will continue to be available. Ultimate subscribers will continue to have access to hundreds of games on Xbox console and PC, including current Call of Duty titles, in-game benefits, online console multiplayer, unlimited Xbox cloud gaming, and major day one releases. There's more details on all of these plans at this link on this page, which you can check out by just Googling it, etc. Dave, we talked last week about the potential of this happening, and Asha saying that she thought that Game Pass was maybe inaccessible to some people. We talked about the potential rumor of Call of Duty not being included in Game Pass anymore. Looks like it all came true. What do you make of this? And do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a thing, Ben. I don't think this is the end of the changes we're going to see for Game Pass. I think this is just the beginning. Game Pass is still now, after the change, slightly more expensive than it was before the last price hike. I don't remember when that was, but it was in the last year or so.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think this is just the beginning, and I think this is maybe Asha's way to try and inject a little bit of goodwill into, what Game Pass is. But when I look at this from sort of like a medium term standpoint, we now know that Call of Duty is no longer going to be day one. You are going to get last year's Call of Duty on Game Pass, which I think is actually a pretty cool idea, because I think it's a nice way to kind of reinvigorate the player base, because the thing about Call of Duties is they always have a pretty steep drop off after a year, just because they put out a new one every year. So this will be a cool way to see more repeats of what we saw this year with Call of Duty World War II and Modern Warfare 19, where suddenly, older Call of Duty games just kind of get an injection of players. So I do like that aspect of it. But I think overall we're going to start to see more headline AAA first party Microsoft games not come to Game Pass day one. I believe the big ones that we know about, so Fable, Gears of War, Campaign Evolved, and Forza, have all been confirmed for day one Game Pass. So I really don't think they can go back on that. But beyond that, I think that's when we start to see a lot more of the bigger titles not be there day one. And it's funny, I remember when PS Plus kind of evolved into the service that it was now, and they had their catalog and they always had their free games and stuff, but it looks like, PS Plus Sony was trying to make its own Game Pass with PS Plus. And the ironic part is now it looks like Game Pass is starting to scale back to something which is what PS Plus is, which is, there's some old games on the service, gives you access to multiplayer games, but otherwise it's not quite, the best value in gaming anymore, which is fine, because I've said in the past that I think, Microsoft is the only company that could have kept Game Pass afloat as long as it was, because this was unsustainable from the start, and I think it was unrealistic for anyone other than Microsoft to make something like this. There's rumors floating around that Microsoft reportedly lost out on $300 million in revenue from the launch of Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which I think would have been the first Call of Duty that was day one on Game Pass.
Yeah.
So you think about that, and the fact that they're making these moves really kind of tells me that they want to bring a lot more of these to the traditional console exclusive, full price day one launch, and a year after launch or whatever it might appear on Game Pass. So I'm personally okay with this because I'm very pro console exclusives. I want a reason to buy an Xbox, and I want Microsoft to succeed and really compete with Sony and Steam and the other players. So I think this is just the beginning. Side note, I said this in Discord, but I want to repeat it here. I think this is further evidence that COD 2026 is going to be like another COD 2019 moment. I think Microsoft is seeing huge potential in what COD 2026 is going to be, and removing it from Game Pass. I think they want to really see that revenue potential that could come from Call of Duty 2026, and whether it's sold on PlayStation or PC or Xbox, Microsoft is still going to see a lot of that money. I think they've realized that they can make more money of COD 2026 being on everything and not on a day one subscription than otherwise. So
Yeah.
Brandon and I are going to pre-order the game together. We're going to do it on stream next week, so make sure you're there. It's going to be great. We're going to click the button and we're going to share our screen and stuff, and it'll be good. So
I feel like Brandon isn't going to do that.
yeah, he is.
Okay.
No, we talked about it on the side. It's all sorted out. So yeah.
Interesting.
He will. I'm going to say it right now. He's going to be playing Call of Duty 2026 day one. And I know he hasn't said he won't, but he's been very poo-pooey on Call of Duty for the last several years. And I agree with him. It's been a shit franchise for a while, but I think this is going to be another Modern Warfare 2019 moment for the series. And Brandon's going to be there day one.
So you just said he hasn't said he won't, but I'm pretty sure that's exactly what he said.
I don't recall that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but the statement I'm making is he is going to be playing it on day one.
Yeah, respectable for sure. Well, I wish you both a lot of luck. I'm not interested in Call of Duty this year until it comes out, and then I'm interested. So I didn't play this year. It's more than like a couple hours.
There is no hype cycle like
yeah.
a Call of Duty launch hype cycle.
That's true. Yeah. Or is there? It didn't used to be. But GTA is coming out this year.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big hype cycle. Yeah, I think that I agree with almost everything you're saying here, Dave, or probably all of what you're saying. It is interesting. I would imagine that even though this comes as a directive or a communication from Asha, it would really be surprising to me if she was the sole decision maker there. I have a feeling that probably the writing was on the wall before she came in, and she's just helping execute it, which is great. I think they definitely saw a decline in either a decline in new users or a lot of people cancel and leave. It's interesting to me that they added all of that stuff that they added, whatever all there was whenever they raised the price, and then Call of Duty, and they raised it. What, it was $10? They raised it, or 11 or 12 or something like that. And now that they've removed Call of Duty day one, it's going back down, but not all the way. So I guess there's
$20 and then went up to 30, and now it's down to 24.
I think it was 20, 30, 22.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Something like that. So it's interesting how much value they're not actually ascribing this much value to Call of Duty, but the way it comes across is we think Call of Duty was worth about $8 of your subscription, which is interesting to know how that's actually captured. They'll win a lot of goodwill. I think they'll bring a lot of people back who left just because it was a little bit over the price range where they wanted it to be. But I have a feeling they won't get everybody back. They're still going to bleed a little bit. And you're also going to lose all the people who only signed up because Call of Duty put them over the edge. So it's a tough situation. I mean, they obviously needed to raise the price, or else they wouldn't have. That's not true. Corporations don't do that. Corporations make money where they can make money. My point is they needed to raise the price. We're pretty positive they needed to raise the price to continue on the sustainability of this model. Did they need to raise it as much as they did? I don't know, but they certainly Call of Duty is a hot topic around Microsoft headquarters at this moment, or in this time period.
There's also rumors and reports that they may actually adopt a pick your own a la carte version of Game Pass, where you could actually select, I guess, a small selection of games that you would have access to with your subscription. That would be interesting. That's different. I don't know how that would work, but there seems to be enough kind of smoke around that to suggest that it may be a path they try to pursue. But
they kind of have a model like that now, where
it falls into their, some of her messaging around, we want to make it for gamers and give people choice and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, their current model is a little bit like that, right? Like the base version only has these games, and then you bump up to the next version that has these other games, stuff like that. But I think what you're saying is more a la carte. I think there's something similar to that out there. I think it's called just buying the games, but I can't be sure.
So I've said this before, but when I get games on Game Pass, I generally do not finish them. I don't feel the investment, and I've only paid $20 for something, and I generally don't. So I don't know. There is something to say about that, where even if I buy a game on sale for $20 on PSN, I feel more of a connection to that purchase than I do something that I'm playing that I'm effectively have rented.
Right.
So, I mean, you're joking, but there is something to that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think both have pros. I mean, both things are great, right? Buying a game is great. If you're okay with renting a game, that's great too, because it does offer a lot of opportunity. So I'm really okay with whatever. I just think the prices need to be in line with the service. And like I said before, when I had Game Pass for years, I played a lot of games, and I played them every month, and I never felt like my money was wasted. It was just one month when my subscription ran up, I didn't renew, and I never went back. And I found all sorts of other stuff to play. So for me, it was like, I really liked it. It was great. But I also didn't feel this need to stay attached to it forever. And I'll hop in whenever I feel like it here and there. Hopped in for Indiana Jones most recently, although that was over a year ago at this point. So I don't know. Reddick says, wait, so for Project Helix, wouldn't they have to combine PC Game Pass and Ultimate? Because if it's a hybrid console and PC, why wouldn't you just buy PC Game Pass? Reddick, that's a great question. I think they have said recently that it is their next console, but we don't actually really know what Project Helix is yet. Could be a PC using the Blades dashboard for all we know. I mean, yeah, so I have a feeling that they're Microsoft. They're savvy enough to figure that out and not be taken advantage of, in my opinion. But then again, this is the same company that lets me get Game Pass for $1 and cancel it and gives me a refund every 6 months or so. So
if they bring back Blades, they will win the next generation.
Yeah, no problem. For sure. According to This Week in Video Games, Shuhei Yoshida, the former head of Sony Worldwide Studios, the division now known as PlayStation Studios, has remarked that he was fired from the role by then CEO Jim Ryan, quote, because I didn't listen to him. Speaking at the 2026 edition of the Australian Games Festival at Alt Games, the 31-year PlayStation veteran introduced himself by recounting his long career, including his transition from leading PlayStation's first-party studio efforts for over a decade to becoming the company's indie game evangelist as head of PlayStation Indies. Quote, I helped Santa Monica make God of War, Naughty Dog to make Uncharted and The Last of Us, and Sucker Punch to make the beautiful Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima was one of the last games that I worked on as president of Worldwide Studios. But in 2019, after 11 years leading the first-party development, I was fired from the role. Jim Ryan wanted to remove me from first party because I didn't listen to him. He said jovially, prompting laughter from the audience. He asked to do some ridiculous things, and I said no. That's really the highlights of this. He did later say that, he did really enjoy the role that he was put into of promoting and evangelizing indie games, but then he left in January of 25 to form his own thing. Dave, it's interesting as time goes on, all the weird I mean, not that we really had like a lot of different ideas about Jim Ryan when he was around, but like we hear more and more about Jim Ryan. And yeah, you should never tell your superior? No, in a disrespectful way, I suppose. You can reason with them, I guess, but maybe there was just cause to move him somewhere else, maybe even to fire him entirely. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like that's the case, especially knowing Shuhei's track record and all the stuff he did. I have heard some stuff that, I can't directly tell the audience. I can tell you later, Dave, about Jim Ryan lately that's just made me be like, wow, that's interesting. And further eroding away any possibility there was of him ever being seen as a great, figure in my mind. But some of that could be rumor, some of that could be conjecture, some of it could be wrong. Who knows? Dave, what do you think about this? Good old Shuhei.
Yeah, I mean, starting with Jim Ryan, just we can evaluate him as a businessman by his business decisions he's made, and the when he was put into that position in 2019, he immediately started to try and diversify some of Sony's gaming portfolio, and as the article mentioned, he got into movies and music and some other things to try and cash in on some of Sony's gaming properties in a different way. And we got the Last of Us movie, and we have or sorry TV show and Gran Turismo and stuff like that. And that's fine. He also gobbled up a whole bunch of studios and tried to put out some games as a service titles that have to this point mostly missed. Marathon is still going, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But just based on the business decisions that he's made, there's been a lot more misses than hits. And Shuhei Yoshida just comes off as more of a boss from this interview that he did at the show, because Jim Ryan said, you need to do this, and he said, no, I don't want to do that. That's not a good idea. It's not a good business decision. And Yoshida stood his ground. And Sony was not in a good spot with PlayStation at the beginning of the PS3 era. It was kind of the lowest of the low, and Microsoft came out swinging with 360. And I think Sony's only in the position they are now because of the work of people like Yoshida, and probably a lot of it is credit for him. They put out some amazing first party software for a long time, and it's because of his initiatives. Jim Ryan comes in and suddenly everything looks real fucky. So I don't know, this just kind of gives credence to the fact that Yoshida is a super cool guy, and like he's developed this love for indies, and as you mentioned in the article there, he's gone on to create his own company that's just there to kind of advocate for indie games and help them become great. So I don't know, it's Sony's in a weird spot right now. They're still on top, but a lot of the decisions they've made over the past several years have really come at the detriment of what they do well, which is put out decent hardware and give you really, really compelling reasons to buy that hardware, and only that hardware, which is really good first party software. Herman Hulst has kind of been the villain over the past couple of years, and I really feel bad for him, because I think a lot of the shitty decisions that he's had to made are coming at on the heels of the mess he's cleaned up for Jim Ryan. And I know he's done some bad stuff too, but I think Herman Hulst, if he was given a clean slate, probably wouldn't look nearly as bad as he does right now.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of this is Jim Ryan just kind of being a maybe not a bad businessman. I don't want to go that far, but just he took some risks and he tried to change things and it didn't work out. So yeah, I don't know. It's I'm happy the Jim Ryan era is over. I don't think he was fit for the position that he was in for those 5 years. And I don't know. I wish Yoshida was still around, because I think Sony needs him right now.
Yeah, I feel like even though I still think PlayStation's great, Sony's great, there is something different about the way that, like, I mean, there's nothing like what happened in the PS4 era with all the indies and everything. And even though there are a lot of bad indies and a lot of subpar indies and a lot of indies that are really great, still don't make a ton of money. All that said, like, there was something that made you feel more at home on the console, knowing that they were like pushing indies a little more. I don't know if that's just me or what. And that, 10, 15 years ago, I probably didn't really play a whole lot of indies. Although I did play some, but it still made it feel more like a community type of thing, which sounds really corny as I say it, but that's okay. And I think a lot of that did change in the the years following the PS4's gigantic success. They kind of dropped that whole "we love indie" shtick and changed it around a bit. And I think they're still fine. It's okay. It didn't hurt them business wise, in my opinion, and according to their numbers. But it just feels different. They don't have there's nothing that makes me feel super attached to PlayStation right now. You know what I mean? Like there's some iconic franchises and characters I really care about, but not the company as a whole. It doesn't have the identity that it once had, in my opinion. But maybe I'm just a nearly 40-year-old man who talks about video games for fun. I don't know. Moving on to IGN. Pragmata has sold 1 million copies in 2 days, Capcom has announced. This is a couple days ago. In its sales announcement, the Japanese game company highlighted Pragmata's status as a new intellectual property. A completely new IP, Pragmata was developed primarily by a team of younger Capcom developers who created an innovative gameplay experience by fusing action gameplay with puzzle elements set in a distinctive world ruled over by artificial intelligence. In the absence of an established fan base or pre-existing brand recognition, Capcom implemented a range of marketing initiatives, beginning with the early release of a playable demo to communicate the unique features of the game to a wider audience. In addition, in line with the company's multi-platform strategy, Capcom broadened the title's availability by adding support for Nintendo Switch 2 at an early stage. Et cetera, et cetera. Talks a lot more. Dave, pretty cool. Even though it is Capcom, they're a big, well-established company that has a lot of fans just because it's them. Pragmata came in with no, other than that, no real silver spoon in their mouth. They weren't coming up on, in a franchise and seem to be doing pretty well. Are you gonna check it out?
I am. Sorry, I was just looking up the name of a game that I want to reference here. I am, and I think the only Capcom, I love Capcom, I do, but the only Capcom game I will buy at launch for full price is Monster Hunter, because it's a live service game and you want to be there on day one. But Capcom is so aggressive with their discounts that I'm like, this game is going to be 60% off in a year, and it's going to be the same game, so I'm going to wait. So the fact that that's no surprise, that's no secret. So the fact that they're selling 1 million copies of this game in 2 days, when people know full well that Capcom discounts pretty aggressively is pretty great. It's another win for new IP. We talked about this last week with some other games that are selling really well that were new IP. The interesting thing is this game actually had a bit of a tricky development cycle, and I didn't actually know that it was a younger development team that worked on this, but they reworked the combat system early on, and it wasn't quite a resetting of development, but they had to go there was a lot of back and forth with the design of the AI character, the girl, I don't know her name, and she's obviously such a key piece for the marketing, is this little girl.
Right.
So I don't know, for having a rocky development cycle, it's great that this game has come out and been received so well. But yeah, I mean, people seem to be loving it, and the combat mechanics, I think it's a risk, and it's a good risk that they took, because it's a lot of people just want to shoot guns, and the fact that they've been able to kind of like meld this really cool like hacking mechanic with really fast, high octane gameplay, I think it's cool. It's like taking a lock picking mini game and somehow combining it with like, oh my god, what is that game? The Platinum Games. I just had it in my head and I forgot it. Anyways, yeah. So I mean, good for them. This is really cool. I want to say the last, and I know this is going to be wrong, but the last new IP that Capcom put out, was it Exo Primal?
Oh wow. That sounds right, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah. So, and we all know how that went.
Radic would know if he's still here.
Yeah. But yeah, good for them. I can't wait to play this, because as I said, I'm gonna wait until it goes on sale, because I'm cheap like that. But have you
can't
tried
wait,
it?
but you're gonna.
Yeah.
No, I haven't tried it yet. I'll talk later about why. I mean, I talked a little bit earlier about why, but there's just been so much other stuff for me to play that's specifically Ben stuff. So this looks interesting to me, but I'm with you. Like, I don't mind waiting for a discount on a game that I don't need to play urgently, even though I do think it looks really cool.
It looks like BioShock's hacking mechanic with Vanquish. That's the game.
Vanquish. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And
Um,
how you make that work, I have no idea, but evidently they did. So good for
oh,
them.
Grief says Kunitsugami was the one before Pragmata. That one kind of made a big splash and then disappeared.
Right.
It was interesting.
That was after Exo Primal.
Apparently.
Every
According
time
to
I think
Grief.
of that game, I think of summoning raptors. Remember the game just kind of repeated that over and over again?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. Okay, moving on to Kotaku. Says Marathon was one of March's best-selling games, but that probably won't stop the obsession over Steam charts. Marathon was the fourth best-selling game in the US during its launch month of March, according to Circana, and that's a heck of an achievement given how stacked March was with new releases. This comes from Circana and senior analyst Matt Piscatella, who shared that MLB The Show 26 took the top spot in the market research company's published US sales charts for March, leading in dollar sales. Right behind it was Resident Evil Requiem, which debuted at number 1 in February and is now the fifth best-selling Resident Evil game ever. In third was WWE 2K26, and then comes Marathon. It is possible that Marathon and any of these other games in the top spots were quickly lapped by Pokemon Pocopia, though. Nintendo does not share digital sales numbers, etc. Even so, this is quite the achievement during such a stuffed month, and one that will hopefully calm distressed Marathon fans somewhat after some of them crashed out a bit over player numbers. Dave, I'll stop there and stop reading the commentary, but yeah, Marathon. I feel like it's a pretty big accomplishment to be fourth in the charts when you're the cheapest game in those charts. At $40, it's $20 or $30 cheaper than the games above it, and to compete with them is pretty impressive. I also want to know what you think about that, about Marathon in general, but then also I want to talk about Steam numbers, Steam charts numbers that everybody's obsessed with right now.
Sure. I think some important additional. So I don't agree. I think this is bad for Marathon.
Okay.
I think it kind of lends credence to the fact that this game has sold softly, which shouldn't be super surprising, but Marathon released at the beginning of the month, MLB released in the third week, and WWE released right in the middle of the month.
Yeah.
So Marathon had a 2-week lead on those other games, so I think that's kind of important to note. And Resident Evil Requiem came out at the end of February, so it was past its launch week. But I think Marathon appeals to a specific group of gamers, and I think, despite the fact that it's published by Sony and developed by Bungie, I don't necessarily think that it was marketed with those goodwill or that goodwill in mind. So I don't think it would have the appeal that like a Destiny would. So I think despite coming from a big name studio and a big name publisher, it doesn't necessarily sell like that, and that shouldn't be too surprising. But I think it's done good enough where I really hope Sony shows some patience with Marathon. And unfortunately, to this point, they have not shown a whole lot of patience with some of their games as a service titles. Obviously, Concord was an outlier, like that sold really poorly, and Marathon is miles away from being that. But the good thing about these games as a service titles is they can have really long sales tails and they can have resurgences if you show your player base that you're willing to support your game and add cool new content and keep them coming back. So if you can appeal to that core that has stuck with your game and then continuously trying to make them happy and bring new people in, a softer launch from a sales perspective isn't really a bad thing. And you can really build off that. So I really hope Sony is patient with Marathon. But I think fourth on the chart in the month of March when they released in the first week is not really a good sign. But again, shouldn't be super surprising. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you. I think it is a little bit more impressive than maybe we're giving it credit for, just from the standpoint of, and Grief asked this question too. This is a sales by dollar amount chart and not a sales by quantity chart. So I think you can give it a little bit more wiggle room there. Now, with your nuance of saying, when these games release in the month, then sure, yeah, there is nuance in both directions, I think, in that way. I don't think they're happy, if I had to guess. this is probably not what they were expecting or hoping for with a new game from Bungie. But the writing had to have been on the wall for them. Like, this game was getting dogged for months or a year. They had a couple of different scandals that popped up with art and everything else. And then the player sentiment towards it has just been horrendous as far as like internet discourse is concerned. Now, of course, internet discourse doesn't always translate into sales one way or another. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But it is interesting how it's been perceived and taken. The thing about the Steam sales charts or the Steam player charts is I think just people are valuing them too much. And it all started with you know, I don't know if it all started with this, but Paul Tassi from The Verge, is The Verge? No, Forbes, has kind of helped propagate this a little bit. And he's doing his job. He's drumming up interest. That's great, whatever. But just pointing out that I think he's been a large driving force on it of like, this game has lost this much of its player base since this date and everything. And while I think that it's important to know, or like to at least somewhat be aware of, you know, how many players are playing a game, it just doesn't tell the whole story, because it tells how many players are playing right now. It doesn't tell how many players are playing or how many players own the game. It doesn't tell how many people have spent money on microtransactions, and it doesn't tell a lot of other information about consoles and everything. I think with Marathon specifically, they did talk about how PC is a large part of their audience. But I'm just tired of it. Like, you know, we're privy to some information about a game that released this week. You and I together are. And we know what those, you know, concurrent numbers on SteamDB are, and they don't really translate to how well the game actually sold. So, you know, a lot of these things are really deceiving, and the amount of people playing a game is not always the biggest indicator of the game's health or the game's financial success. Going back to Bungie again with Marathon, I do think that this game was probably a disappointment for them financially so far. But you mentioned the long tail, and there's a long tail with every game, by the way. But the long tail, especially with live service, if you keep pumping it, if you keep supporting it, and the consistent opportunity for additional purchases and microtransactions, that adds up a lot quicker than most people would realize unless they've actually been behind the curtain, I think. So, yeah, those are my thoughts, is that I think they're a good metric to see, and they're a bad metric to use to to beat a game up over. I think high numbers on Steam, on SteamDB or, you know, Steam charts or something like that, obviously mean the game has sold pretty well and there's a lot of people playing it. But declining numbers don't necessarily mean the game's broke or like there's nobody making money, because that's not the case. I don't know. Little soapbox that I hop on pretty frequently, especially when I'm talking to a couple of my friends who are just obsessed with Steam charts. And I'm like, but you're wrong. Like, that's not how it works. So, beating that dead horse a little more. Next story, and the last one for today. Nintendo has been sued by fans who want tariff refunds. This is from GameSpot, and it says Nintendo might have to prepare itself for a lawsuit that could have far-reaching implications for companies aiming to secure a tariff refund from the United States government. According to new court documents, 2 Nintendo customers have filed proposed class action complaint in the United States District Court's Western District of Washington, with the aim of forcing Nintendo to pass a portion of their tariff refunds back to them. Following the U.S. Trade Court's ruling that President Donald Trump's Liberation Day global tariffs were illegal, thousands of companies found themselves eligible to receive a refund from the U.S. government. Several companies like FedEx and UPS are already planning to pass these refunds back to their customers. But what about Nintendo? The gaming giant has said nothing so far, but the brewing lawsuit from plaintiffs Gregory Hoffert and Prashant Sharan could soon change that. In a formal complaint written by their lawyers, they allege that Nintendo could receive a windfall if they apply for a tariff refund. There's a lot more here. A lot more of it's stuff that, you know, whatever. I want to know what you think about this concept of suing a company for a tariff refund. And in my understanding, I think Nintendo had already announced their prices before the tariffs went into effect and did not increase consoles. I think they did increase some of the accessories, in fairness, but not their console prices based on those tariffs. So I don't know. How's this add up? What do you think?
I think I want to say kudos to these guys for taking a shot at Nintendo, because from a legal standpoint, Nintendo's pretty scary. They have
Yeah.
this very squeaky clean, family friendly image that they've always had, and it's just so funny because we read all the legal stories here on the show. And they're fucking terrifying when it comes to litigation. So kudos to these guys for trying to stand up for the gamers. And when you kind of look at it from a certain perspective, it does seem kind of shitty that, and again, Nintendo hasn't said what they're going to do with the refund if they get it. But if they were to pocket it, it would be kind of shitty. But I think the context is important, that they were the first to permanently announce a permanent price hike to their games with the launch of the Switch 2. And I think they can easily make the argument that they did it for market adjustment, rising development costs, inflation, and they could prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they didn't raise the prices for inflation. So they're not just quote unquote pocketing that money. But I don't know. If FedEx and UPS are finding ways to give this back to the customer, then it does kind of set a precedence that if you do get a significant amount of money back in these tariff refunds, then it theoretically should go back to the consumer. I don't see Nintendo losing this battle at all, unfortunately, but I guess the only thing I'll say is kudos to these guys for trying to stand up to a company that is otherwise pretty scary from a legal standpoint. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but it does make you think.
Well, David, so I agree with all of that, by the way. But am I mistaken in remembering that they had announced their prices? Then, like a couple of days later, the news about the tariffs came out, and then they said, "Hold up, wait a minute. Let's reconsider what impact this is going to have. You can't pre-order yet." And then they came back out and reaffirmed what the prices were that they were going to be what they had said before that. So, like, you would have to make a case that the price you paid was impacted by the tariffs.
But didn't they announce those prices before the tariffs were official?
They announced them before the tariffs were even public. Yeah.
Right.
Not before they went into effect, but before they were ever even talked about.
Yeah. So I'm saying that the justification for the price increase or the prices, the set prices, the MSRP that they put out there was independent of the impacts that tariffs were going to have.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't think you could say that, Nintendo increased their price to offset the tariffs. Nintendo increased their price because that's the direction the market was going, independent of tariffs.
What price are you talking about them increasing? The games?
The games.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say, because the console price and some of the games, such as Mario Kart and other stuff, they were already announced before the tariff. So yeah, I think we're saying the same thing, but in different words. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that this case has much of a chance. And even if it were right, I have a feeling Nintendo can beat it down. But I don't know, Jim. It'll be interesting to at least watch this progress or not, or get squashed immediately. Imagine, yeah, I'm wondering, because like you can raise your price on something for any reason. And just if you decide to lower it doesn't mean the customer is owed an amount back. Just because the tariffs were ruled to be returned doesn't mean that, I don't know. There's a lot of arguments against this lawsuit, but there are also probably some for. Giant balls, though, on these guys. I wonder if some like ambulance chaser was like, I got to take my shot. Can I find two buddies who are interested in putting their names on this lawsuit? Dave, it's time to talk about what we've been playing. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I'm going to go first.
Do it.
I never go first. Came out yesterday. I've only played about an hour last night at 2 a.m. Vampire Crawlers from Ponkel, the makers of Vampire Survivors. I was mentioning this game to someone recently, and they were like, oh, yeah, that's a Ben game for sure. And it very much is. Vampire Crawlers, for those who aren't aware, is set in the Vampire Survivors universe. But it is a very reminiscent of like old school Wolfenstein, where you move one space at a time, turn left and right very rigidly, et cetera, et cetera. But with all of the enemies and the power ups and the abilities from Vampire Survivors, um, it kind of works. It's a deck building roguelike game where you have a character, you level them up, you collect cards for them, you can level the cards up, and you continue to defeat enemies by moving one space at a time and running through a map. This game is, I talked about it a little bit when the demo was out originally, and I'm going to say it again now that the game is actually out. This game is dangerous. If you thought Vampire Survivors was dangerous, this game will probably also appeal to you. And I lost like that entire hour. It was funny because I this happened to me, and then I saw Dustin's tweet about it from yesterday, where he said something like, "I sat down to run a quick match, and I ended up playing for an hour." That's exactly what happened to me. I was like, "Cool, I can just run something real quick, give it 15 minutes just to see how it is," and it was like an hour and 15 minutes later, and I was like, "Oh wow, I'm done." So I'm very early on in it. We'll have plenty more to talk about, I'm sure, but Vampire Crawlers is very specifically a Ben game, and I'm sure many of you have already tried it. There's a train, so go ahead, Dave. Why don't you just cut me off and go ahead and talk about Red Dead?
Sure. So, I've been playing Red Dead Redemption 2. I've got about 10 hours into it. I'm still kind of in Valentine, which I guess I am still doing a lot of early missions for um the camp. And yeah, I think I'm not going to say anything that hasn't been said about Red Dead Redemption 2 yet, but I think the thing that's jumping out to me so far is how genuine this game is as an open world experience. And I think when you strip it back to the studs, it from a structural perspective, it's just like any other open world game. But then when you kind of look at it from um, the way the world is built, it's just feels so real. And in the height of like the 2010s open world boom, there was this term that got thrown around a lot, and it was really cliche, and I'm going to use it here because I think it's really applicable, but it's the term lived in. And you know considering how much of this world is kind of quote unquote empty, as in, you get this map that's sparsely populated with these little towns, and then the rest is just kind of open wilderness. It's crazy how alive everything feels. And I'm really kind of appreciating that about it. A couple key indicators of the way that I'm kind of slowly drinking in this game is, this is going to sound weird, but I'm not really sprinting anywhere, whether I'm on my horse or just walking around as Arthur. I just kind of like walking, and just kind of looking around, and kind of taking it all in, because it's just so serene the way everything is. And um a lot of like the random open world events that you come across they're so simple in their design. Like, you find a woman whose horse is, died, and she needs a ride back, and it's literally just a fetch quest, but there's something about the way that how genuine it all feels, that like there's just a woman on my horseback, and I'm taking her back to her house, and she's telling me about her life, and it feels like a really memorable real life encounter with a stranger. And I don't know. I don't really know how Rockstar managed to do this. I guess it's good writing or something. But I don't know. When I come across these kinds of things in like an Assassin's Creed game, it doesn't feel the same way as it does here, but it's just so similar. So it's difficult to describe the way I'm feeling, but it is special. And again, this is nothing that you haven't heard before about Red Dead Redemption 2, but it's even the quietest moments just feel so impactful. So I'm really enjoying it. I don't really want to like progress the main storyline too much. I just kind of want to do stuff and kind of hang out in the world, and sit at a bar or like play some cards or do some hunting. So I'm really kind of playing it differently than I would any other open world game where I'm just like, I want to progress the story, I want to level up my character, I want to do stuff like that. This is more like I just kind of want to exist, if that makes sense. And I know this is a game that's near and dear to your heart, Ben, so you probably understand everything that I'm saying, but yeah, it's been pretty great. I think I made too much in my head about the whole early game like hump that you have to get over, because I think going through it a second time, like, it really isn't that big of a deal. I think where it maybe I struggled with it the first time is the way you're just kind of dumped into a situation with Arthur and the gang. And it kind of feels like you're joining something in progress rather than seeing a story unfold from the beginning. So I think that might have been where some of the struggle was, but I don't know. It's pretty great the way that Rockstar has kind of crafted this game, and I don't know that we're going to get this from GTA 6 because it's just tonally going to be such a different experience. So I'm happy I'm kind of experiencing this now rather than after GTA 6, because I think this is kind of Rockstar at its finest, and yeah. So I'm looking forward to playing more, but yeah, that's Red Dead so far.
Nice. You put that very eloquently. I don't remember your exact words, but the idea of the world just feeling so real
The
and
word
like
is genuine. That just keeps coming
genuine.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I think that's 100% on point. I really want to go back and play this game again. I own it on PC now. It was gifted to me a couple years ago, and I never have gone back to it. I played it on PS4 the first time, and I really want to go back and play it. But as you know, it's such a giant commitment, and there's so many other games right now that I know I will play it again eventually, as long as I live long enough. But I want to play it. Every time I think about the game, I'm like, I want to play it so bad. But it's hard to pull yourself away for a 60-ish hour experience if you don't do everything. And I want to do everything to play something you've already played. But this is one of those games that's worth it to me to do that with. So I will. At some point, I will. Now that the train's gone, I can finish up my games. The other one, I got two more. One is Mouse PI. I actually got sent a couple copies of this. I tried to give Dave one. He didn't want it. Mouse PI is a Mickey Mouse era boomer shooter that's in black and white, noir kind of thing, where you're a detective and you're a mouse. I don't really know how else to explain the game other than like all of those different things that fit into the box. This game is really solid. Now you guys know that I'm a boomer shooter fan. I love them through and through. I also love like old school she there, like that kind of talk and speak. I think it's really kind of kitschy and fun. But this game is also just once you get beyond the fact that it's like, you know, the film grain and the black and white and the fact that it's like old timey, it's actually just a really solid shooter at its core, and a little bit, just the tiniest bit detective-y as well. You start out with like a very simple gun, and you just keep getting better and better guns and better ways to fight against the enemies. And you're going through all sorts of different environments where they're wide open and there's tons of power-ups around. You know something's coming, and your goal is just to shoot and move and take out as many guys as you can. But then there is the element of I have to continue to discover and to find clues and to unlock little puzzles and stuff like that add to that, giving the boomer shooter genre a little bit more depth as well. And I mean, those things have always been evident in boomer shooters, but I think this game really does a great job at shining a light on it. The dash mechanic is great. The double jump mechanic is great. A lot of the guns, every gun feels different. They feel like every kill you get with them is earned. No times that you die does it feel cheap. You always know if you die, it's because you did something wrong, and you know what that thing is. It's never, at least so far in my, I don't know, I want to say like 4 hours of playing. At least in my like 4 hours of playing, I haven't felt like, oh, they just threw so many enemies at me that it overwhelmed me, and there was nothing I could do unless I went and grinded. Like you just you know why you died. It was something you did. There's a really cool mechanic where you're unlocking safes, and it's like a little puzzle that opens up, and it's actually you're using the detective's tail to go through and pick the lock. That's kind of cool and cute. Um, yeah, I think as I progress, I'll have more to talk about the game. But so far, it's just been a really fun experience. It's a different style of game than I think many people have played, and the marketing of the game has gotten them into it. And um, people are, maybe you come to love the boomer shooter genre as us old heads do. But it's solid, very solid. It is. I think it's like $30. As I mentioned, I did get it. I think I'm required to disclose that I got it for free, which is no problem. But putting it out there, so take my opinion with a grain of salt. But I was planning on buying this, and then the code came, so I didn't have to. And then, yeah, it's just it's a solid representation of the genre and beyond. Dave, are you sure you don't want to play it?
So I do want to play it, but just whatever time I have to play right now, I want to play Red Dead. So, and I didn't realize you had multiple codes, so I was like, I didn't want to take a code and then not be able to play it, and then you not be able to give that to somebody else. So, I do want to play it, but that was my reasoning for saying no.
I think I can hook you up.
All right.
I think I can hook you up. The last game is called Winrose. I talked about Winrose a little bit last week, and man, this game continues to give. Now, I haven't had a ton of time to play games in general this whole week, but I did spend like 8 hours on Saturday when I was after my kid's soccer game. They went to like a science fair or something that they had already planned to go to with Emily, and I was like, I'm spent. I'm staying home, and then I just played Winrose for the rest of the day while they were gone. And I mentioned last week that I didn't really know that there was ship combat mechanics in this game until it came out, until I saw the launch trailer. And I have spent a significant amount of time on the ship fighting. Of course, you have to do that a little bit when you go from one place to the other. It's just, it's part of what happens when you're on the open seas. But it's really cool. The mechanics are neat. The way that you shoot, you basically, I'm playing on mouse and keyboard. You hold in the right mouse button, aim in the direction you want to shoot, and you shoot that direction. Dave, I'm sure you're screaming right now at me, talking about mechanics that you feel are similar to another beloved game, but that's okay. The thing I like the most about being on your ship, though, is not necessarily the shooting or the sailing or anything else. It's the singing. The shanties are great. They're really well done. There's a lot of them. I don't even know if I've heard all of them. So that's a cool part of it. The thing I find interesting about this game, and it's not a turnoff to me, is that when you're sailing, sometimes you're sailing for a very, very long time to get to where you're going with nothing in between. And it surprises me a little bit they would do that. Like, it does enhance the map and make it a lot bigger and make it more of a commitment, increases the value of the fast mechanic travel when you're able to utilize that. But the thing I find interesting about it is just that, like, they took a gamble. I'm serious. Like, one time I was going from one mission to the next, and I didn't have a fast travel point at the next part because I hadn't explored it. And it took me like a solid 8 or 10 minutes to sail there with nothing in between to see. I dodged a few pirate ships here and there and got out of their way, but by and large, it was just like a sail across the ocean. And I thought that was pretty cool that they were willing to take that gamble and hope that people would appreciate it. Now, maybe there is stuff in between that I didn't see because there's fog of war until you've explored everywhere. But yeah, as far as I could tell, there wasn't a whole lot going on. And some people may find that boring, but I found it really soothing, I guess you could say. As you continue to do missions and fight enemies and open up different stuff, you can continue to unlock different things to build in your base, to enhance your base, to make it, instead of making it out of, fiber, you make it out of clay or stone or something like that. So you get different like blueprint type things to be able to make them. You also start to open up different factions where you can, if you've killed one faction, you can sell your trinket that you got from them to another faction and gain favor with them. As you gain favor, you unlock different things that you can utilize, some of which are clothes or weapons or materials. And then you can also open up like the ability to have a guy who you can station at your base, and you can just order bananas from them and have like a ton of bananas come in instead of having to go out and gather food. Not just bananas, lots of different stuff. But so still exploring, still experience a lot of this game. My favorite part still is the survival crafting aspect of it. I go out, I chop down a tree, I take the tree, I make something out of it, I continue to enhance that, etc. Like that's the core loop for me. But a lot of the rest of the game around it is super fun. My buddy Justin, after we played for a good bit of time on Saturday, did end up buying us a server that we moved our world onto. So now we have a persistent server where when he can play, he can go in and play for a little bit. When I can play, I can go in for play for a little bit. Keeps progress between us. And then, of course, we can play together when we're able, rather than having to worry about like, oh, he's not online, so I can't play that save of the game. And I think it was relatively cheap as well through their official partner to buy that server. So having a lot of fun with it. Haven't played as much as I wanted to because of life and because there's so many great games out right now to play. And they're going to continue coming out as well. I also picked up a game called Replaced, which I haven't played yet, but I want to. But I wanted to buy it day one, so I did. That's all I got to say. Anything else from you, Dave? Anything else you want to talk about?
I played a little bit more Division Resurgence, but I don't have anything new to say. I had a question about Windrose.
Yeah.
It's early access, right? Does
It
it
is.
feel early access? Like, do you see a lot that still needs to be added to the game? Is it janky at all? Tell me why you hate it.
You want to know I hate it so you don't feel as bad about not being able to play it on your native device? So I was thinking about this when I was playing, and from a like features standpoint, I don't really feel like anything's missing. I'm sure there are things they can do to enhance and to fix bugs and stuff like that, but there's nothing that I've looked at and been like, wow, this sucks. I hope it gets better throughout early access. From a performance standpoint, I definitely think it could stand to improve a little bit. I mentioned last week that I'm playing on a new monitor and a new resolution that I've never played in before on this PC, so I don't know if the game's performance is because of that or because it's in early access or because it's not well optimized or whatever. I don't know. I did some tweaks and was able to get it to run pretty well. But if I have any complaints about the game, it's because of the performance is not optimal. But that said, when I have my FPS counter up, it's still running at an acceptable frame rate. It's just kind of a varying acceptable frame rate. So going from, 70 to 85 back and forth, but it's still like a good frame rate. It's not like it's dipping tremendously. It's just not a stable frame rate. But yeah, I also I hate it because it sucks, Dave. So you should feel good that you can't play it. No, I don't really have any complaints about it. I mean, there's always little tweaks with any survival crafting game, but as I mentioned last week, this game has added so many quality of life features to it from other survival crafting games. It's also stolen a ton from other survival crafting games, but it's, in my opinion, that's what all games do. They steal from other games. But it's taken so many of those features and resources and made them better. So I don't really have a whole lot of complaints about how the game works right now. Or features that need to be added. I'm sure they will add some stuff in there that I'm like, that's pretty cool, but I don't know what it'll be.
Nice.
Yeah.
I also really want to play Replaced. It looks great.
Yeah, it does. I played the demo like the day before it came out, just in anticipation of it to see if I really wanted to check it out. I had seen trailers, but nothing else. But then it came out, and I was like, well, I don't have time to play this right now, but I'm grabbing it.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Don't forget, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/handsomephantom or on Discord, handsomephantom.com/Discord. We appreciate each and every one of you. And we'll talk to you next time.